I ruined my wife's life. Again. Original post. It feels depressingly sad that I feel that I have to turn to random internet strangers for some sort of validation in my rant. My apologies in advance as I try to keep this as vague as possible. I, male 43, tried to do my best to provide for my wife, female 38, and 2 kids, 3, 5, as well as my mother-in-law, and would like to think I'm doing a decent job. Over the years, I worked to improve our family's living situation. Not only did I complete another bachelor's and recently master's in a STEM-related degree, I at the same time worked 2 full-time jobs while completing my second bachelor's and put my wife through school as well. She completed a degree where she could make good money, about 60 to 70K a year in a healthcare field that always has jobs available. But with the birth of our 2 kids, she has since gave up on her career to be a stay-at-home mom for the time being. At first, it was a struggle while I was finishing up my master's. Once I completed it, after our youngest turned 3, my career took a jump up, and we are now able to afford our single-income household in a more feasible manner. We're far from rich, but do okay for a single-income family of 4, a little north of 150K base plus bonuses. The past year, life was overwhelming for my wife. So even though I now work 75% from home, I budgeted to hire a daytime nanny to help her around the house with 1 child, while the other is in school now. My day starts every day around 5:30 to 6 a.m. I get the house ready for the day before the nanny comes at 8 a.m. I get our oldest up and ready for school, breakfast made, and plan out my day, bringing our oldest to drop off and be home in time to let the nanny in. My most recent task at work has me grounded for the next 2 months, meaning I am now 100% work from home. While this is nice, I am busy in meetings all day as my role manages teams on a global scale, as I oversee projects from my industry. For the past 1.5 months, I realized my wife, as much as she says her life is stressful at home, starts at 10 a.m. I asked my mother-in-law and nanny if this was always the case after a week or so of working from home, and they both responded more or less. Sometimes earlier, sometimes later. My wife literally wakes up and cooks, and then scrolls through her phone or shops from home. Which brings me to my gripe. I am glad I am able to provide her that sort of life, since we both grew up lacking in means. I get the possibility of postpartum depression, the stress of having kids, the feeling of being unfulfilled, the fact that I probably am a crappy husband. But for what it's worth, everything is taken care of and then some. I manage the house's finances. She claimed she was too busy to do so. Pay all the household bills. I pay my own personal bills. I pay her bills, track and perform all the upkeep of our house appliances, cars, pets, etc. And I also help pay for my mother-in-law's medical bills and car note. But apparently, my life is on easy street compared to hers. I can't be compressed to her because it seems like she always feels the need to one-up me. I had a bad day, but she had it worse, because I'm lucky I got to go away and work. My feet hurt from walking all day during work travel is nothing compared to her standing and cooking with a child clinging to her. For the past 2 or so years, I've been told I ruined her life, her opportunities, etc. But when I reminded her of what she says, she denies and dodges accountability. My mother-in-law has brought me aside and stated she's noticed it changed in both myself and my wife. I have a greater attachment to my kids. And heck, I've hugged the dogs and talked to them more about my life than to my wife. I honestly feel like I am in emotional survival mode, as I am 1 step from moving up the career ladder, and 1 step away from finding love and comfort from the bottom of a whiskey bottle. I'm sure I'll be hearing from the manly men of Reddit about how I'm simping, but I'm not a machine. I just want to know and feel that someone I prioritize, aside from my kids, appreciates and loves me for what I do. I'm sure I'll hear from the stay-at-home moms of Reddit, which is fine. I grew up in a single parent/mother household. It's not easy, and honestly, with the help of her mother and a nanny Monday to Friday for 1 toddler, while another child is at school, can you honestly tell me she's having the typical stay-at-home mother experience? Because neither my friends and colleagues who are single parents can say she is. I'm sure the masses of holier than the Redditors will consider this a poorly written fanfic, but it is what it is. To add more context, 1. Never cheated. I do work in an industry that has a large female population, but I'm literally an open book with work, name, colleagues, and staff under me. She has access to my work agendas and correspondence if she really wanted to snoop. But on that note, she still doesn't know what exactly I do for a living at this time. 2. We as a whole family, her parents and mine, Have tried to get her to go to therapy, but she refuses or skirts around the issue. 3. Aside from my coming from a single mother household per se, my biological dad was present in my life. She has had both parents in a reportedly monogamous marriage for over 40 years. 4. I have tried to talk to her about everything and my own feelings, but again, one-upmanship tends to be the trend here. 5. What I am getting out of the marriage was asked. Now, aside from my 2 beautiful kids, I've been asking myself that same question. We have a near non-existent intimate life, mainly since last year. I always figured maybe it's part of depression or whatever she may be going through. Maybe I'm just not attractive enough, or just horrible in bed because of my health conditions. I'm not some supermodel husband, but temptation and opportunity does knock, and I can perform still. But I never give in. Because as cliche as it sounds, I honestly do love my wife and want to only be with her. 6. I'll give credit where credit is due, as I don't want to sound biased. When I say she wakes up and cooks, she cooks for everyone in the house. Myself, kids, mother-in-law, and even nanny. Aside from breakfast, she cooks all meals and snacks. I typically fast until lunchtime, and our oldest tends to eat a small simple breakfast in case they don't like what school serves that morning. She does load both the kids and her laundry, but seldom folds and puts them up. I typically do my own, and the rest of my clothes I dry clean because they're work clothes. She does keep track of our pantry and fridge, but after she makes the list, I'm the one who goes out and buys everything if not delivered. She does clean our bathrooms and house 50% of the time. The other 50% is done by either mother-in-law or myself, or sometimes nanny if she feels like being extra helpful. 7. Prior to nanny, my mother-in-law was the main help for my wife up until she had unexpected medical needs. So I opted to hire a nanny to help them both, more so when mother-in-law is having treatments and recovering. Now for the top comments before reading the updates. Woman here, if you ever divorce, you are completely welcome to come and ruin my life like that. Straight man here, but I'll also take this type of life ruining if you're willing. I am married, but I am gonna ask my husband if we can adopt you so you can ruin our life. I prefer my children ready to leave the house. Hi, stay-at-home mom here as predicted. She's taking advantage of you. I know taking care of kids is hard, but what is she actually doing? Because from where I'm sitting, it reads like you do everything while she just gripes and complains, usually to you, about you. Sounds like she's checked out of the marriage and parenting role and just hasn't asked for a divorce because you're bankrolling her. I don't know if it's PPD, generic depression, or something else. She's miserable and making you miserable alongside her. She needs to either get herself some help, get a part-time job at the very least, or get the heck out. Sit down with her when you have the time in between doing literally everything and try to get to the bottom of things. Express your concerns in a non-accusatory manner and ask her what's up with her and how she feels things can be mended. Honestly, if she refuses to talk, blames everything on you still, and or expects you to put even more work in, your marriage is over. You would be amazed at how much less stress you have when you don't have someone dragging you down and making you feel like crap along the way. A second all of this, I'm also a stay-at-home mom. I don't know why OP's wife doesn't get a job if she's so miserable staying at home. One kid is in school, the other has a nanny. She has life on easy mode. Now for the first update. Not sure if anyone would read this, but thank you for those who have reached out and chit-chatted. While I know I've kept my newfound friends here updated, I figured I'd just update my post and keep it short. I showed my wife my post the following weekend, and she read it and all the comments. Long story short, argument. She left our house to stay with her sister, and I've been a single parent since. It's sad to say, aside from the good nights to our kids, it's all pretty much the same routine. Nothing much else to say other than thank you for all the kind words of encouragement. Just need to add, this post got bigger than I expected from a venting post, but I've responded to a few comments. Nonetheless, thank you for the comments and DMs, and more so for the offers to let me ruin your life. Haha. It's been the highlight of my days/night as I sit here drinking with my dog, while everyone else is asleep. Now for the second update. First of all, thank you for all the comments and DMs. Some context and clarification since admittingly my post was emotionally charged, since I typed it up after another argument. Post-birth, our kid's pediatrician's office gave my wife those postpartum depression screening forms, and during the time of both, she scored pretty high and was suggested to see a therapist. With our second child, she scored significantly higher, and or should I say, I made an effort to get her the help she needs. She refused, so entered mother-in-law and nanny for support. I know what people will say/think, but this is one of the reasons I am not 100% ready to just give up and file our life together away. Also, I know silently suffering in the near and long run for our kids' future will not add to a healthy atmosphere, but neither would a bitter and hate-filled divorce. I know some have compared it to the ripping off a bandage, saying it'll hurt at first but then pain goes away, but I'd rather try to spare my kids thinking that their parents ended up hating each other because of them, or something along those lines. I've told a few people I talked to in DM since my last post. A little more insight in my personal life. Prior to my promotion, I was a project manager, managing teams and budgets, so out of habit I planned for a lot of what-ifs. That being said, I made a number of contingency plans if things sadly went south. So yes, I have talked to a lawyer. 3 actually. Know our rights and what each of us are entitled to. Have a draft settlement created and on hold until I feel I need to use it. I know what I want, and I'm willing to offer more than what is fair for our kids' well-being, but also have a plan if we end up going to court. It's 100% on me that I'm suffering in silence, but I'm too stubborn to just give up. So while I am venting, I don't expect anyone to feel sorry for me. I endure it to keep the norm our kids know, ensure my mother-in-law's treatments go uninterrupted, and of course the hope my wife would finally be open to give therapy a shot, and climb together to a better place. Thank you all again. I just wanted to update those who have been kind enough to check up via DM and comments. Apologies in advance for the lengthy post. It's a bit of irony and coincidence that I made a follow-up from the update on May 6 I made on my original post during Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. But I could really use another outlet outside of my therapist. My apologies if this isn't the storybook ending/destroying of a relationship people were hoping for. To save you a read, wife left, came back like nothing happened. She made it about her. Nothing's changed. I'm continuing to be suffering mentally knowing nothing will change while trying to keep it together for our kids. Lots of takeout. The day after she packed up and left, my wife attempted to come back and take the kids with her to her sister's. Naturally, I was against this, and thankfully so was her whole family, including her sister. Not only was it not fair to our kids for her to sweep them away into a home that's not theirs, but to put that financial and housing stress on the rest of her family since she doesn't work. And her sister and her family, husband and 3 kids, stays with her dad in the house they grew up in. After a little over a week of being away, I guess she cooled off, so she just decided that it would be fine if she walked in the door with her bags, as if she just came back from Target. She came into my office while I was working and angrily stared at me while I sat on a conference call meeting with my team, and I couldn't just jump off as this is a busy time of the quarter for us. I guess that didn't sit well with her, because once I took off my headset and closed my laptop, she started yelling at me about how much I really don't care about her and her well-being overall. At that moment, I couldn't do anything more than look at her and just shake my head. Mother-in-law came in after hearing my wife yelling and pulled her away, telling her to not bother me, while our nanny kept our youngest away from it all on the other side of the house. That night after the kids were put to bed, I sat in my office by myself with a drink, as I have been doing for the past nights, and my wife came in. We talked, we argued, we cried, we drank. One thing led to another and we were in bed. I wish I could say that was our making up, but the next sobering morning as we laid there, she went on about how hard it was for her the time she was gone. Literally, it was about her struggles, staying at her family house in her old room with her dad and sister's family. How lucky I am to be able to stay here and do this and that, and buy this or do that, and not stress as much as they did. How easy my and everyone else's in our family lives are compared to hers, even though we had similar upbringings. My mind and heart broke that morning. I've been spiraling down since then, and this last week I made another attempt to reconcile and talk things out. But I was met with a shouting match while trying to express my current stress and anxieties with life and work in general. Wife, well, do you know how hard this is all for me? You're supposed to help me be happy. Me, so when it comes to my happiness, stress, needs, and overall well-being, F me, get over it, right? Wife, we all have our own problems. You need to figure it out and get over them. I don't know who the woman I am at home with is, but that wasn't the woman I married and vowed to spend my life with and raise our kids together. Since that conversation, I've been noticeably distant with her. I've been sleeping in my office or in the couch or with my kids in their bed after putting either one of them to sleep. Still doesn't change her starting her day at 10 a.m. and sitting on her phone talking to her mom groups between cooking meals, with the kids in both mother-in-law and nanny's care. Nothing has changed, and I doubt anything will change. Sadly, I think even if we got a divorce, nothing would change or feel different anyway, since during my wife's leaving, the day seemed like any other day, except with a little more takeout than usual. My main fear there isn't that I wouldn't just lose my wife, I'd lose my kids in the process. So I guess it's sad to say the grand finale to my story. With like a lot of men and some women I've talked to here, I'll just continue to smile and suffer in silence. You are teaching your kids that a home without love is okay. Stop. If nothing changed with her gone, divorce her and get over it. Then start living for yourself and your kids. You really are just being a coward at this point. Why would you not just get a divorce, for Pete's sake? If it's for the kids, this is the worst thing for the kids. Imagine growing up thinking this is what adult relationships are supposed to be like. Those kids are being programmed to accept terrible relationships as the norm. I feel so bad for them. Nothing has changed because you won't change it. It all starts and ends with you. Until you realize you're the only one who can change your own destiny, nothing will ever change. Take control. Take back your life. My parents had a toxic marriage, and my sibling and I begged them to get a divorce. My dad finally moved out, and everyone breathed a sigh of relief, including my dad. My parents got along great after that, and everyone was happy. Staying together for the children just makes everyone miserable. I've seen more ugly divorces than good ones like the one you described. OP's wife seems manipulative as hell. She will 100% poison these kids' mind in order to make herself out to be the victim, while he is the villain. Last story. I'm ghosting my girlfriend, and I don't care if I'm wrong for it anymore. I'm just done. It's stupid, it's dumb, it's a bad reason, but I cannot freaking take it anymore. My blood pressure has legit been spiking over this recently, and I cannot keep this up. I cannot do it. We've been together for close to a year, and this problem has only come up over the past 2 months. She never did this crap when we first got together, and I don't know why she freaking started. But I'm so sick of it, it's crazy. Whenever we get food, she always eats off my plate, no matter what it is or where we are. The only thing that stops her is if I order the same exact thing as her, and she's taken to ordering things that I cannot eat, so I can't do that. If I tell her to stop in the moment, she just laughs, and when I talk to her about it privately, she blows me off because it isn't a big deal. But it is to me, goddammit. I have a history of food insecurity, which makes it a lot worse, and I've tried to explain that. But then she's snapping that I'm being condescending, and I just can't. Most recently, she had a plate full of her pizza on the table and had eaten over half of my medium pepperoni. And I was so mad, I just grabbed 2 slices off her plate without asking, which made her go into shock for a moment, before screaming and acting like I had freaking slapped her in the face or something, spitting and going red in the face. You don't even like olives, you freaking a-hole. You always have to be right about everything, you prick. You can't just let me have this one freaking thing. As if I had been the one consistently stealing from her for months. I just went cold, tossed the pizza back on her plate, not at her, as she was in my face, screaming and a ways away from the plate. And then I just left the apartment. She claims there was no reason to get violent over text, but I knew then that I was freaking done. I've never raised a head nor my voice to her, and lightly tossing pizza on a plate across the room while she screams into my face is violent? Nah, I'm getting away from her. She's now tried to apologize, but I'm not going near her again, or answering any messages/calls from her. God only knows if she'll decide to call the cops and have me arrested for my violent behavior, and I'm not chancing it. If I'm so freaking awful and violent, she can get away from me, and be safe to steal constantly from other people. I know ghosting is wrong, I've been through it before, but after that, I don't know if I trust myself to speak to her cordially again. I want to scream and curse back, but that isn't who I am, and not how I was raised. I don't like the person she's turned into, and I hate the person she's turning me into. Now for the top advice. You're good. She knows what you did. She knows how much it bothered you. She decided it was fun to do it anyway. Just block her on everything and move on. She gets her kicks from passive-aggressive behavior, and it's bullying too. Lose her. It's abuse, and it gets worse over time. I was trapped in a relationship with a woman similar to this. It wasn't about sharing food, but she'd used this technique in other ways. And over the course of 3 years, it evolved into a form of Stockholm Syndrome, in which she was gaslighting me, then verbally and finally physically abusing me, until I left. I'm actually texting with one of my best friends that I helped get away from a woman like this about a year ago. He is still struggling. He definitely has PTSD. He is falling into the deepest depression I've ever seen him in, and it's just a constant effort to try to pull him out. When someone you love so much messes with your sense of self and reality, it can truly break you. I hope you're happy and okay now.